Hello, hello. So, right now we are going to talk about file structure and organization project timeline. So, this is a 2 to 4 week project duration. It really depends on how fast you can do it. I can really do it in a day. Some people need a little bit more time. So, on average, I do put out that it takes 2 to 4 weeks to really work through the full scope of it. A day is really building out the structure. It does take a little bit more time to get everything organized and in place, especially if you are starting midstream. So, if you are a new business owner, new solo entrepreneur, this might be easier for you to get started from the beginning. This is one of the very first steps you want to take to get yourself organized, get yourself set up in a very successful way. So, a well designed file structure reduces wasted time, it improves collaboration, supports onboarding, and creates operational consistency, which that is all about the Optima method. So, right here, we're talking about digital file organization framework, and this project really establishes a scalable folder hierarchy. We're talking about naming conventions, governance processes, and document management standards as well. So, you may see me looking down. I've got my notes here to make sure that I'm covering all of the different topics for this conversation and making sure that I'm providing you all exactly what you need. So, I already built out the framework for this conversation. So, called the project timeline, just project structure and organization project, starting off with our phase one for discovery and assessment. So, your discovery and assessment is really to look at what is our goal? What are we trying to accomplish here? So right here, from a discovery and assessment perspective, we are definitely going to talk about a couple of days of work. The objective is to understand your current file storage practices, if you have any, identifying duplicate files, review shared drives and cloud platforms, and assess organizational needs. So you'll have about 6 tasks here. Again, this is standard. You can keep adding on more based off of what you need as well. So your first one is review existing folder structure. So you want to understand, what do you have today? What are you working with? What all do you need to enhance, change, duplicate, or move around to get yourself organized? Okay. The second one is your inventory of your current files, understanding what all you have, especially when it comes to duplication, which is then identifying your duplicate documents, because you want to understand, what can you merge, what can you put together, what is one versus the other, what is the latest version as well. Then you want to identify high risk storage areas, meaning where is everything being stored versus others, especially when you have resources, a larger team who may not be putting everything on the cloud. They may be leaving everything on their desktop. So, meaning that they have access to it, but no one else does. Then you're going to review access permissions and then interview key stakeholders, meaning that who all has the relevant data points that you may need to be able to archive or merge documentation. So phase two is your design your future state structure. So from a timeline perspective here, we're at 4 to 7 days. The objective is to create a logical, scalable organizational framework. So we've got a highly recommended top level folder structure. And from here, what we're looking at is where we're creating our department structure. So examples that I have for my business, even though I'm a solopreneur, a small business owner, I still have all of this as well, just to stay organized. But as an example, you've got level 1 is administration, 2 is finance, 3, we've got human resources, 4 operations, and I am building all of my frameworks as if I'm a larger organization, because as I'm scaling, I want to make sure that I have everything already in place for as I'm growing my team in the future. And so I don't have to redo all of this. So think about it from a larger scale perspective to make sure that you have everything that you need to be able to get there. Because if you start with just having everything in one place, unorganized, it is very easy to get lost, get overwhelmed, and then having to redo a lot of work. And that is just churn, and it's not very relevant. So, this is what it would look like. This is what mine looks like. And I use Google Drive to get everything there. So that way everything's on the cloud. I can access it from anywhere at any time, especially when I work with a lot of customers. So the next one is define folder structure, naming standards. So you want to make sure that you're looking at it from an administration. I have access to, no, you all will have access to my entire SOP where this is completely broken out on how to get set up. I will link it in the show notes so you all have access to it, but it also defines this, the folder structure naming standards. And it actually goes into more detail what I have within each one of these folders as well. So then you're going to define ownership, define retention requirements, define archive requirements. So you want to have all of this set up so that way you know what exactly to expect, when to expect it, and how to manage it. So again, if you don't have a team, it's okay. Do this for yourself now, because in the future, you're going to thank me later. Okay, so phase number 3 is your naming convention development. So right here, what we're going to focus on from a timeline perspective, it's days 8 and 10. So about 2 days. It does take a little bit of time to get through everything, especially if you're already going to work alongside all of your documentation, get it organized. But the objective is to ensure you have consistency across all of your files. So an example of this would be the name of the document, the version that you're in, and a date. If needed. So make sure that this does not include any special characters, no personal initials, consistent in dates, and version control is required. So from a deliverable standpoint, again, you will have access to my SOP. I will have a naming convention guide as well as a file management standards for you to be able to access this. So from an example standpoint, there are no specific tasks, but what you will go through is every file that you have access to and go through the naming conventions and work through that. So again, I will say an example is client name, project, SOP, version 1, and then the date as an example. These are my typical naming conventions. I like it very simple, straight to the point. That way I can continue to keep everything accessible. If it's for internal documentation, then as an example, I have podcast, launch, V1, and then the date. Keeping it very short and simple as well. So it doesn't have to be very complicated. Okay. So from a phase 4 perspective, we're looking at migration and cleanup. So this is another 2-3 days. So the objective here is really to move folders into the new structure. That's ultimately your goal. So you're going to remove duplicates. You're going to archive obsolete files. You're going to rename existing documents, move files to the new structure, and then verify links in documents because you want to make sure that nothing broke, and then validate permissions. So from a deliverable standpoint here, you're going to have an organized shared drive and an archive folder as well. So the next one is your phase 5, which will be your permissions and governance. So here you're going to establish ownership and security. So from a folder standpoint, you want to know who the owner is. So as an example, you have your finance folder. The owner will be, as an example, a finance director. If you're a solopreneur, it's basically you all the way down. Edit access will be the finance team. And read access will be leadership as an example. Operations, the owner would be the operations manager. Edit access will be the operations team. Read access would be all staff. So from an activity standpoint, what you're going to work on is assign owners, and you are going to want to document this. You want to configure the permissions, document governance, and create a review schedule. So all of this will be within the SOP as well. From there, from a deliverable standpoint, you'll have access to a matrix and a governance SOP. So everybody will remain on the same page from an expectation standpoint. So then phase 6, you're going to focus on the employee training and rollout. You want to make sure that you have trainings, documentations, and supporting documentations ready to ensure adoption of the new structure is accepted. It is very difficult to go through change, but it is important to have the supporting documentation to help through that. So from a training topic perspective, what you're going to have is you're going to have your folder structure overview. So from a high level, when you look back up here, you're looking at your folder structure. Within, you can have multiple folders. You can even set up examples and expectations on how many clicks down, how many subfolders do you allow. You want to make sure that there's not too many clicks, because the more clicks you have, the harder it is to find the documentation. You'll go through the naming convention expectations. You're going to document the storage rules, meaning that you are no longer storing your documentation on your desktop, but you're storing it in the Google Drive, in SharePoint, wherever everybody's storing it, everybody's storing it in the same place. You're going to talk about version control, archive procedures, and then access requests. So all of this will have its own processes. In your SOP, you will have to write all of this out. So you're actually writing out your expectations. I have a sample SOP for you to utilize, and you can definitely use that as your framework. So from there, from a deliverable standpoint, you'll have access to a training guide and a quick reference cheat sheet as well. So from a recommended folder structure as well, here's a couple of recommendations, high level. Administration. Within the administration folder, you may want policies, procedures, strategic plans, board documents, or legal. From an operations standpoint, SOPs. This is a good example. You're going to be building out your SOPs. You're going to have your work instructions, process maps, quality assurance, and continuous improvement, and so forth. So overall, in a 3-week time frame, you should have covered the milestone from an assessment completion all the way through to go live. So from a success metrics perspective, KPIs, what you're looking for is duplicate file removed. 90% of that will be complete. As you're working through the migration and going through all of the file structure details that we work through, you'll get through all of that. From a file retrieval time frame, that's less than 2 minutes. Naming convention compliance, you'll be at 95% plus. KPI, user adoption, 100%. Everybody's on board, everybody's working the same way, which will be fantastic. Folder ownership assignment, 100%, because you are strictly walking through the ownership there, and then archive compliance as well. So a couple things from a Optima method file organization principles, you are going to end up having one source of truth. Every document should have a single home. You'll have consistent naming conventions. Users should know what file contains before they even open it. So if you have it in the file naming convention, that's step 1. Even in SharePoint, you can even add some details to it. That can be step 2, giving that context as well. If you're linking documentation in your SOPs, you can even include some consistent naming details there as well. Ownership matters. Every folder must have an accountable owner. Again, if you're by yourself, it's all you, and I'm sorry, same thing for me, but otherwise you are going to be able to have everybody accessing and managing their own folders. Archive, do not delete. That is definitely something where you want to preserve records while reducing clutter. Do not delete, because once you delete it, it's gone. Archiving, you can always fall back on the documentation, and you can even put a process in place that after 90 days, you can delete it, but you definitely want to have that in place. And lastly, structure creates freedom. My favorite saying. So employees should spend less time searching and more time executing. So this framework works exceptionally well for nonprofits, small businesses, growing organizations, teams that need the structure, the exact audience is served by Optima Operations Consulting. It really depends on who you are, but anyone can really use this as a standard moving forward as well. So once I've got this video uploaded, I will make sure you have access to the additional resources that I have available, as well as the framework that I just developed right here for you to access as well. Okay? Thanks for joining.